There were 12 people in the house that night. 11 of them would wake up the next morning and go on with their lives. One of them wouldn't. Her name was Tamla Horsford. She wasn't just anyone. She was a mother, a wife, a daughter, the kind of woman who remembered birthdays, showed up with a smile, and stayed late to help clean. The kind of woman who didn't just bring energy into a room, she filled it. That night, she had said yes to a birthday party invite. A sleepover, really grown women in their 30s and 40s. Drinks, football, laughter. It was meant to be harmless. Tamla was the only black woman there, the only black person in the entire house. By morning, she was face down in the backyard. Her arms were bent in unnatural angles. Her wrist was cut. Her body was stiff. Her feet were clean. The police called it an accident, said she had too much to drink, that she fell from the deck. And just like that, it was over. But if you ask her family, if you ask anyone who's really looked at this case, nothing about it was ever over. The injuries didn't make sense. The party guests' stories didn't match. The security system disconnected. The man who made the 911 call had direct ties to law enforcement and later got caught accessing internal case files. Still, the case was closed. Twice. And for so many people watching, especially black women, it didn't feel like a tragedy. It felt like a warning, like something we'd seen before, too many times. Because when a black woman dies in a white space, especially one with power, privilege, or connections, it's not just about what happened. It's about how quickly the world looks away. So no, we're not here to tell you a ghost story. We're here to ask the questions no one in that room seemed willing to answer. What happened to Tamla Horsford between the laughter and the silence? Before her name became a headline, before the petitions, before the questions that never got answered. Tamla Horsford was just Tam. Tam from St. Vincent. Tam, the girl who grew up on an island where the breeze smelled like salt and where everybody knew your name. She came to the U.S. looking for opportunity, and she built a life, a real life. She met Leander. They married. They raised 5 boys together. 5. She wasn't some party girl, as the rumors tried to make her out to be. She was a football mom, a cheer squad volunteer, a corporate worker with a 9 to 5, and the friend you called when you were in trouble and when you weren't. She loved loud music in the car. She called everybody boo. She gave hugs that actually meant something. So when her friend Jean invited her to a birthday, sleepover a night in with the girls, she said yes. Not because she was desperate for a break, but because she wanted to show up. That was Tamla. She showed up. She brought a bottle of tequila, her favorite. She wore a white onesie covered in playful paw prints. And she smiled for pictures that would later be used on flyers, news blogs, and memorials. The last night she was alive, she was trying to be a friend. That's all. Tamla Horsford died in Cumming, Georgia. To some, that's just another southern suburb, quiet streets, large houses, tree-covered yards. But to others, especially those who know their history, Cumming means something else. In 1912, Forsyth County made itself clear. Black residents were not welcome. After a white woman claimed she'd been assaulted, white mobs forced nearly every black family out. Homes were burned. Churches were leveled. People fled for their lives. For nearly 75 years after that, Forsyth remained almost entirely white. By law? No. By fear? Absolutely. In 1987, a group of civil rights activists tried to hold a march there. They were met with angry mobs shouting racial slurs, waving Confederate flags. It got so bad, Oprah Winfrey brought her cameras. She stood in Cummings Town Square and asked white residents on national TV why black people still weren't welcome. And now, decades later in that same county, a black woman had died under suspicious circumstances, surrounded by white faces, and the silence was louder than ever. This wasn't just a sleepover. This was Forsyth County. And if you know anything about the South, you know memory runs long, even when nobody speaks it out loud. Most guests began heading to bed between 1 o'clock and 1:30 a.m. Tamla was last reportedly seen around 1:45 a.m., smoking a cigarette on the back porch. After that, no one sees her again, not alive. At 8:45 a.m., the 911 call comes in. It's made by Gene Myers and Jose Barrera, Gene's boyfriend, a former county court official. "Gene, we had people over last night. She was drinking." "Jose, she's lying in the yard. She's not moving. I'm noticing a small cut on her wrist." They claimed Tamla had fallen off the back deck in the middle of the night, that no one heard it, that they found her in the grass, cold, lifeless. The deck was about 14 feet, height roughly 1.5 stories, but Tamla was found face down, in undisturbed grass, more than 10 feet from the base of the deck. No broken railing, no blood on the deck, no signs of sliding or struggling. The autopsy noted multiple blunt force injuries, a deep laceration on her wrist, cuts and abrasions on her face, arms and legs, injuries to the head and neck, a dislocated wrist, bruises that didn't fully align with a forward fall. She was found face down, but there was no mud on her body, no dirt on her feet. Her white onesie still clean, her socks still white. The toxicology report showed a blood alcohol level of 0.238, nearly 3 times the legal driving limit. It also found THC and Xanax, but her family insisted Tamla wasn't a pill user, and no one remembers her being visibly impaired. Then came Jose Barrera, a former court officer, the man who helped place the 911 call. Later, it was revealed he accessed Tamla's case file unofficially from inside the county system. When it was discovered, he was fired. But by then, the damage had already been done. The crime scene had been cleaned. No rape kit, no fingernail scrapings, no DNA swabs from under the nails. The official ruling? Accident. No foul play. Case closed. But to those who've lived in places like coming to those who know what it means to be black in white spaces, it didn't feel like an accident. It felt like a decision. But if it really was an accident, why did so many people work so hard to keep the full truth out of view? From the beginning, the handling of Tamla Horsford's death raised questions. There were 10 people in that house, all considered witnesses. But the interviews were inconsistent, loosely documented, and in some cases, conducted days later with no follow-ups. No autopsy photos were released to the family. No rape kit was performed. No DNA swabs were collected from her fingernails. No forensic photos of the back porch or fall zone were made publicly available at the time. Even the scene itself, poorly preserved. By the time investigators arrived, some guests had already left the house. Others were inside, drinking coffee, cleaning up. And then there was Jose Barrera, a county court employee, someone who had relationships inside Forsyth law enforcement. He helped make the 911 call. Later, he was caught using his position to access Tamla's incident report without authorization. He was fired, but not charged. His conflict of interest should have triggered an independent investigation, but it didn't. Instead, the case moved forward quietly. In February 2019, just 3 months after Tamla's death, the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office officially closed the case. Their ruling, accidental fall. They cited high alcohol levels and the presence of marijuana and Xanax in her system. No charges were filed. No suspects. No second look. But to Tamla's family, none of it made sense. The injuries, the clean clothes, the cold tone of the 911 call, the absence of basic investigative procedures. And one question kept echoing. If this had been a white woman found in the backyard of 10 black men, would this case have ended so quickly? Tamla's family never stopped pushing. They demanded answers not from the news, but from the system that failed them. In early 2019, the local chapter of the NAACP got involved, calling for transparency and a full reopening of the case. Then came the petitions, the hashtags, the digital movement. By mid-2020, more than 700,000 people had signed an online petition demanding a new investigation. The case began appearing in national media. Celebrities reposted it. Influencers amplified it. The silence began to crack. And in June 2020, in the wake of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation finally stepped in. But their conclusion was the same. Still, many didn't accept it, because justice isn't just about process. It's about trust, and this case from start to finish didn't earn it. Tamla's death was ruled accidental, but what happened around her, the silence, the protection, the procedure, was anything but looking like there are much stories left untold. And for her family, this story doesn't end with a case file. It ends when the full truth is told. Tamla Horsford was found face down in the backyard of a house full of white party guests, her body bruised, her wrist gashed, and yet, within hours, authorities were already calling it an accident. The investigation into Tamla Horsford's death was anything but thorough. From the beginning, key steps were skipped, ignored, or quietly swept away. The autopsy photos? Not released. The crime scene? Poorly preserved. By the time investigators arrived, people had already walked through the backyard, and witnesses were allowed to leave. Witness interviews were inconsistent. One said she went to bed at midnight. Another claimed she was seen on the porch at 1:30 a.m. Still, the timeline remained blurry and conveniently unresolved. Tamla's toxicology report didn't come back for nearly 4 months long after the case had already been ruled accidental. Her blood alcohol level was high. Marijuana was detected. So was Xanax, a drug her family insists she didn't use. But these findings, rather than raise suspicion, were used to close the case. And then there was Jose Barrera, a former pretrial officer, and the boyfriend of the party host, Gene Myers. After Tamla's death, Barrera used his position to access police reports from the case. He was later fired, but still never questioned, never charged. In February 2019, just 3 months after Tamla's death, the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office ruled it an accidental fall. No foul play. Case closed. But Tamla's family never believed that story. They had seen the bruises, the wrist injury. They had seen her, and they knew something was wrong. To them, the real cause of death wasn't gravity, it was indifference. The local NAACP stepped in, demanding an independent investigation and questioning the role of race, influence, and institutional apathy. By mid-2019, Tamla's name was starting to circulate online. Twitter threads, Facebook posts, Instagram slideshows. People began to ask, why isn't this case on national news? It was no longer just a family's grief. It had become a community's rage. Protests began to form, peaceful, loud, and unmistakably clear. People carried her name, her photo, her story. They didn't believe the fall. They believed something or someone brought her down. They closed the case, but the people never closed the book. Tamla Horsford walked into that house on the night of November 3rd, 2018, to celebrate friendship and life. By morning, she was gone, her death explained away by words like accident and misstep. But nothing about her story feels simple. The questions remain. How could so many people be inside and no one notice what really happened? Why did crucial evidence go uncollected? And why, even today, do we have more theories than answers? This isn't just about one woman. It's about what happens when a Black woman's life and death isn't given the full weight of justice. Tamla's story exists in the same long shadow that has followed so many before her, a shadow of silence, doubt, and unresolved truth. Her family still searches for clarity. Her community still carries her name. And every time we speak about her, every time we ask these uncomfortable questions, we remind the world that her life mattered and that mysteries like this should not be left to fade quietly into the past. So tonight, when you turn off this video and the questions still echo in your mind, remember Tamla. Share her story. Keep her name alive. Because sometimes the only way to push for answers is to refuse to stop asking. This was Untold Black Mysteries. Thank you for watching and for remembering Tamla Horsford with us. This story is more than a case file, it's a reminder of how easily voices can be silenced. If you believe her story deserves to be heard, share this video so more people know her name. And if you want to uncover more untold Black mysteries like this, stay with us, subscribe, and don't miss the next story that demands to be told.